Let's get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking with a Dad. This evening we have some more of a news topic than general. Steve, let us have it.
So we're following obviously the George Floyd case here, like the rest of the nation, which was a horrible thing to watch on camera. I didn't know that the person catching it on camera was a 17-year-old girl, and I do want to send a shout out to her for having the bravery to stand her ground and continue to film that. So obviously a young child, but George Floyd's killer, the first officer, was originally picked up. Let me see if I can get this guy's name correct, because I know how much that annoys you, Zach. All right, now I'm gonna butcher this guy's name. Yeah, this is not gonna happen. So the first officer in question was originally picked up. This is the gentleman that we've all seen with his knee on George Floyd's neck. Had it on there for, what was it, just under 9 minutes? He had his knee
like
on his neck.
8 and change, yeah.
So he's originally picked up on murder 3. His charges have been upgraded to murder 2 without intent. And then the other 3 officers in question have been picked up for aiding and abetting. So Zach and I were talking about this earlier. We're going to put a distinction on what aiding and abetting is. It's assigned to aiding and abetting to second-degree murder. So technically, they are being charged with murder as an accessory.
Okay, so the guy's name is Derek Chauvin. That was a very easy name. I was actually expecting it to be way more Polish or something.
Listen to me. His name doesn't deserve to. It doesn't even deserve.
Let's be fair. All right, yeah. I'm sorry. I have to bleep that out. So now you're gonna help me here for a second, right? You know a little bit more about the U.S. law.
I did not pass the bar in this state, but I am licensed to practice law in
Florida. Okay, in Florida. So generally, me and you were together, driving down the road. You pull a gun, reach out, shoot a guy in the back of the head. We both get charged with murder, correct?
Right.
That's generally how this goes. So the 3 guys who are accomplices to the murder are not getting the same charge. Why?
They're getting charged as accessories, right? Because they're culpable because they didn't stop. They also aided in it by 2 of them were holding him down while the knee was in the neck.
For all 9 minutes.
Yeah, for all 9 minutes. And the hugest part about it is it's about what can be proven by law, right? So you can't charge someone. No. But even though there's a video, you have to go to the letter of the law, not the spirit of what people think it is. So these are the charges that they can actually bring against them, and with case law. And so they were charged as accessories. But here's the thing. Each one of these guys could be facing at the maximum 25 years in prison.
Okay, but they won't get that, clearly.
No. They'll each get like 11 to 15, more than likely, on the high.
If they get charged. Right. That's the issue here. If they get charged. Convicted.
Yeah.
Brought up on charges.
Yeah.
Okay, again, back to what I was saying before. Now there's a dash cam in the car, and it sees me just driving and you shooting someone. We both get charged with the same crime, right?
I get charged with accessory.
No, you're shooting.
Oh, I'm not shooting.
I'm not the shooter. I'm the driver.
You're the driver. You get charged as accessory to the crime, and then you get charged for aiding. You get charged for
aiding and abetting. Oh, an evasion.
Aiding and evasion. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
depending what state we're in, but here's the thing about this, right? So here were the huge takeaways, and I wanted to call you earlier, but I was so locked into this. So obviously, the prosecutors won't be speaking about this publicly, given the history of things that have happened in these type of cases before.
Sure.
People have gotten their hopes up, and because there's video evidence, you thought there would have been a slam dunk. So they've decided to take a very, very strategic legal approach to this, which is they won't be discussing the case. They
shouldn't be.
They will. You should not at all. They will not be discussing it with it, unless it's a private with the family attorney. They won't be speaking on matters. They've decided to go, which was extremely important, nonpartisan, because the AG or whatever the guy's, man, I feel bad, but the guy who's actually was brought in to replace the head prosecutor, the DA or whomever on this, he actually, I have it right here. If you give me 1 second, I just didn't want any dead air.
So I know that the attorney general, I believe, is an AG, right?
Yes.
Has come out and said that he is going to attempt to prosecute them to the full extent of the law. Now, is that a PR statement or is that an actual statement?
I actually, so obviously I can't read minds and I can't read intent, but I feel as if though apparently they're gonna they are gonna push for the maximum on these, and also he's not going to be the lead prosecutor on this. He's going to leave it to people who are actually like, not that he hasn't prosecuted cases in the past,
right?
but because his plate's so full with his with his day-to-day job. So here's the thing about this, right? They also decided to go nonpartisan, which was a huge step, right? Because of course, when I'm watching this on CNN, it blasts at the AGs. Not blast, but the banner reads Democrat, D next to his name, right?
Sure.
So he obviously is a political animal and a strategist, realizes when they started asking political questions, he's like, none of that can become a part of this, right? I encourage people to step away from this and realize that this isn't convicting these gentlemen, if we're, able to do that and prove that in the court of law, isn't going to cure racism in America. But what we are going to do is pursue this by the book to the fullest extent of the law. He also laid it out quite eloquently, like, I don't know how long this is going to take. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. And then a reporter asked a very poignant question, what if they plead out? And he's like, we're not even in a place to hear pleas or even talk about pleas right now. Right now, we're still gathering information.
Early, I think.
Yeah, they're still gathering information. They asked him if murder 1 was ruled out. So apparently, Minnesota is a very hard place to convict someone on murder 3 and murder 1. Because murder 1 means that you had intent and plan to kill someone, right? Okay. But you can try someone for murder 2, and then if they plead out, you can get them on murder 3, right? Because that's why they had to bump it down and say it's murder 2 without intent.
What is murder 3? Is that negligent homicide?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what does this mean? Is this good news? Yes. Obviously, it's a shame that we have to say this, but it's good news because that means the system is working in regards to they will be moving towards a trial. Now we all have to allow it to happen. And of course, I'm salty. You're salty. We're all very skeptical about this, right?
Very skeptical about it.
We know how the court system plays out, but as of right now, I do think that the AG is being sincere. I examined the way people discuss things, especially politicians or anyone in that realm, and there's no win for him in this situation. Actually, this is probably going to be the thing that could potentially be the end of his career, right? Unless he gets a conviction. So he just went in there and just stated the obvious, which was, we're going to try this by law and by the book, and that's what I would prefer. So we also can't talk about this without talking about the fact that, old Trumpy boy did something that really got everyone rattled. So apparently there's a procedure before you fire a rubber bullet, right? And rubber bullets are supposed to be fired at the ground.
Yes, they're supposed to be a scare tactic and not a direct hit. And there's been plenty of photos. I've counted 3 or 4 people who have lost eyes because of it. There was one of like a fucking 17 or 18-year-old girls that had one in, like, shoved up all in her forehead. Like, it's not good, man. It's not good.
So Trump had, he had the infamous, what will now go down in infamy, of him and his cabinet walking over to in front of the church, uninvited, of course, but having all the protesters cleared out. So here's the scandal, Zach. This is the weird part.
By tear gas. They gassed all the gas. They also gassed all the protesters, cleared up the gas, and then had Trump walk over.
So there's a bunch of stuff going on.
And that's exactly what Trump wanted, from what I've heard. Yeah. Was clear out the protesters by any means necessary and get me in front. Go ahead. No. You're absolutely right. So, and a lot of people are speculating that that is in response to the narrative and story that came out of him hiding in the bunker. And if you examine his body language when he's walking, he's afraid.
There's a lot of bravado. He's walking out front, and it looks as if though he's trying to make a statement. Here's the issue: Trump is having a hard day with 2 of his former guys, and one, I believe his name is Mancy. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But did a press conference and he distanced himself from the president, and that he said he had no idea.
At this point, as you should.
Yeah, he had no idea that was about to go down. Had no idea that they were going to, he doesn't know who gave the order for the low flying helicopter. he doesn't know any of that stuff. He said we were supposed to just be, going out to survey the area type of situation. So he's distancing himself from that. And then the next thing that's coming up is Washington is currently they were talking to a representative from the Metropolitan Police there, and it's so much information. It's hard to unpack.
Can I interrupt you for a second before we get into there?
Go for it.
Did you see the way that he was holding the Bible?
Upside down?
Upside down, backwards, and like he's never held one before. Right? Does that not offend a lot of people? Right? Isn't that most of his voter base? I would say the religious voter base, right?
You're talking about the evangelical vote.
Yeah, there you go. I think most of the Republican Party is very religious, if I remember correctly. Does that not offend people the way that he was holding it? Because even I looked at that and I'm like, holy shit, dude. I'm like, I'm not religious whatsoever. And I was like, you fucked up there. Like, that's going to get you in some trouble, I think.
So remember when we were talking in the last episode about this, and I was talking about the pandering?
Yes.
For the, hold on. What is this? There we go.
I don't know.
The pandering to Christians, and it's not going to have the impact, unfortunately, that you think it should, right? Like, someone should be able to see that and say, okay, this is highly offensive. I see what he's doing here, and be able to walk and use my discernment. But more than likely, it's not, because what we're discussing here is now people vote according to things that they don't want to lose, right? And right now, Trump is the best way for certain parties not to lose anything. I think real Christians can see through that whole bravado act and can go, okay, this is obviously a man trying to
not even a good attempt at pandering to people, right? Like, so I saw that, and like, again, as a non-religious person, I'm like, holy shit, dude. I'm like, at least carry it like by the spine, like something, right? Like, show some respect, so some modicum of respect, and he couldn't even do that for that moment.
No. Crazy thing, Zach. Here's the thing, right? Someone asked him, they said, hey, is that your Bible? And he's like, it's a Bible.
He's not religious whatsoever. He doesn't know anything about religion. Never has been, from what I understand. There was he was on some news show, and they start asking him like questions about the Bible, like, what's your favorite verse? What's this? What's that?
Oh,
that's one of the funniest interviews I've ever seen, because you back him into a corner, and he's like, well, you know, and that's it, right?
He referred to 1 Corinthians as 1 Corinthians, and I'm like, oh Lord,
you got me there. So that's a little bit above me. Another thing going on right now is the police force, and we spoke about this on the podcast, and we probably will again on the podcast. It's just such a big topic. The police force across the United States right now is proving everybody right. They are proving everybody right everywhere you go. New York City, LA, Detroit, Northern California, in southern states, all of these protesters are getting police, like, there is a massive spread police brutality on all of these. Shooting tear gas at someone's face. I've seen this one directly. Guy walked up, gets maced immediately, and then they shot a tear gas canister within 15 feet at his head. Right. People getting hit by rubber bullets for no apparent reason. A lot of these I've seen peaceful protest and a cop breaking windows to try to get people to riot. There's been video and photos of the undercover cop, the AutoZone that got burned down in Minneapolis, an undercover cop going in and breaking the windows, right? So I feel like there are looters, don't get me wrong, right? And there's a difference between the looters and the protesters, for sure.
Right.
But a lot of it is coming from police sparking this up. Honestly, we've seen it for years in the NYPD, right? They wear different colors on different days, and they plant people inside. And you said you got to kind of know who you're marching with, and I think it's hard when they're deliberately trying to do this. There was videos of, I think it's in California, of just a bunch of bricks just inconspicuously sitting there.
Yeah.
And the guy's like,
that happened in the city too.
Oh yeah. And the guy's like, what the fuck are these doing here? No one's bringing a pallet of bricks. Like, it's too obvious, right? Like, so, and I think a lot of it is definitely corruption in the police departments, but a lot of it is the police spurring this up so they can have reason to use force.
And, it's funny you bring that up, because we also see something else happening. Like, I wonder what's happening. I wonder what the reaction is going to be for those cops, where I believe a lot of these weren't PR moves at all. When you see the chief of police get in there and start praying with people, when he outs other cops and say they're culpable, when you see cops putting down their batons and deciding to walk, like we've seen it.
Here's the issue with that. And I love that idea, But I don't want to see the chief of police doing that. That's a guy who hasn't walked the beat for 30 years, right? I want to see the sergeants, the captains, the lieutenants, the lower down middle police guys. I want to see those guys out there doing it, because a lot of them are not.
100%.
There are
100%.
photos of chiefs doing this, and then the next day, immediately, same people, you can clearly see it in photos, firing tear gas into peaceful protesters.
You're talking about the like the lower, like, I hate lack of a better term, the grunts, right? You're talking about
but not even, but like the middle management of police, right? The chief or whatever's at the top, right? But then there's lieutenants and sergeants and captains and that might be it. Under that, right? I want to see those guys come out and do it, because those are the guys that have been on the beat most recently. The chief of police is there as a PR person.
Hold on, let me interject for a second. How do you feel about the footage of the one guy who's obviously a beat cop, who's leading who's doing the pushback on the protesters, drops his baton, drops his helmet, starts marching with them, and everyone else starts marching with them? Like, there have been pockets of police being able to coexist with the peaceful protesters, and I agree 100%. There has been a heavy-handed response in the wrong instances sometimes. Like, we're seeing people who are just quietly standing there, in solidarity, getting roughed up, right?
Maced,
we've seen that
with batons and shields.
What's strange to me is when they were looting Best Buy in Union Square, the police just happened to come 5 seconds after.
Of course.
I know that area extremely well, and I know that it shouldn't take them. Okay, this is conjecture. Let me not do this. All right, I believe that there's not a 5-second response time or 10 to 5 second. Like, I believe the cops were in the immediate area, and I do believe that there's a certain amount of looting that's allowed to go on for a certain period of time to create the narrative. Just like you can hold two positions at the same time. Just like I believe also that the protest was infiltrated by anarchists, you know what I'm saying, by other groups.
I agree.
That were hiding in it. So there was one other tragic thing that happened today. Out of respect for the family, I'm not going to say the guy's name, even though it's plastered all over YouTube. This is probably the saddest thing that I've seen today out of all of this, amongst a pyramid of sad stories. So last night, and this is all Googleable, I just don't know how much we can talk about, but so a security guard, a guy who had been a cop for about 30 years or 40 years.
I saw this,
and responded to, he was a security guard now in his retirement. Apparently a job. Any patriarch, he responded to the alarm going off and was shot dead by people pretending to be protesters, looters basically. And that is something I want to impress upon people. Listen, me and Zach are going to throw ideas back and forth with each other, but we agree on 95% of this stuff. And the 5% that we might disagree on is more, how would you describe it? It's more
there's more fringe topics, I think, that we disagree on, right? Like the very left or the very right of topics I think we disagree on, but generally centered amongst ideals and morals and stuff, we're fairly aligned.
So here's the thing. I cannot hear people refer to these people or businesses as collateral damage. Nope. So if you're someone who's protesting in the name of George Floyd, please impress upon the people you're protesting with to make sure innocents aren't harmed in the name of the protest. As far as you can control it, right? As far as you can control it, distance yourself for your own safety and the safety of others from people who would take advantage of this moment. And I think we are seeing a response in that. I think we've been seeing more peaceful protests. Some people have argued that, it is because there's a stepped up police presence and National Guard. Fine. Okay. They're doing their job. Stop the looters. Let people protest. Another thing I want to say, and this would be it for me, and I wanted to get your take on it. So going back to the case, it's going to be 3 months, right? 3 to 4 months. Let's say
probably longer. Safely. I would say 6 months, because you have to find a jurisdiction that doesn't have biased jurors in it, and that's going to take a long time for that to happen.
So we got that right there. So let's say on the long end, a year for conclusion with sentencing and everything. What needs to happen next is you cannot rely on this court case to impact any overall lasting change, right? So we got a huge election coming up, and it doesn't matter to me in this moment. It does not matter to me if you are right, left, or centered. But if you're someone that was disturbed by these images and you're tired of the same thing happening, whether you be a Republican, conservative, Christian, if you see the injustice of a man being killed on the street and just poor management of the country, This would be a time not to rest on your laurels and possibly get out and practice some civic duties, give back to your fellow man. Let's not let this be like 9/11 when we were all united around a tragedy and then we forgot in a year or two.
Yeah.
Enforce some positive change. And I say that mostly for Zach's generation. Like it's pretty screwed up that before 40, I've seen most of these things, and I don't want my kids to be dealing with these things. Now, you can't change the nature of men, but you can restrain them with the law a little bit. so we got to do something about that. And we'll get to all the straw man arguments next, like, crime in the inner city. All that stuff needs to be on the table, and we need to start addressing all of it. Zach, you got any other thoughts on it, man?
No, I think that actually wraps us up a lot. Yeah, honestly, I think that's it. If you're out there protesting, stay safe for sure.
Yes.
You exercise your right 100%.
Right.
I honestly think that's it. I think that's it, Stevie. Thanks, everybody.